Well, here we are, my friends. And first things first, before we get into the live market report, we really gotta acknowledge some pretty amazing things. And I think it's clear of what needs to be acknowledged. Yes, England, big game yesterday, even bigger game coming on Sunday. I will be celebrating. So to all those that think Italy has a chance, I guess, but to a good friend of mine, Lori in particular, what say you? What's the bet? England versus Italy. We got you. We got you covered, and that's what I'll be watching on Sunday for sure. For sure. So, as every month it does, right around the 6th, 7th, the new stats or the stats for the previous month on the Toronto Real Estate Board come out. And it's always interesting to kind of go through the numbers and see where the market's going to help understand where we sit in the marketplace in the Toronto area, and whether you're a buyer or seller, it's good to understand that. And if also, of course, if you're a realtor, how do we get that information to our clients to better interpret it? And that's what this next 15 minutes, 20 minutes or so is going to be all about. Feel free to ask questions. Like I said in the description, this is totally unscripted. I know there's a few things I want to get to and show you kind of behind the scenes and where to pull some of the stats and how to read the stats. But like I said, this is totally unscripted, and we'll just kind of go through the numbers, and I'll show you how I go through the numbers to kind of see what's going on. And it's really interesting to see, what that tonality is of the market. Because if you're talking to buyers and sellers, or you're thinking about selling your home yourself, you're thinking, oh my gosh, the last number of months has just been crazy. And if you're currently in the market, perhaps you feel, especially if you have a listing that just came up, say, within the last week or so, perhaps you feel like you're on the market. So there's a difference between being in the market and on the market. And it's amazing how just even over the last month or so, we had to hold offers, and there's still pockets where that's happening, multiple offer situations. So when a listing goes up today, we gotta hold offers for X amount of date to make sure that enough people come through the home and to generate multiple offers. Well, now, some pockets are still experiencing that, and other pockets are not. So when you go on the market and you go past that 5, 6, 7 days, and you're not getting the activity that perhaps your neighbor did early in the year, you're thinking, what's going on? Well, it's just the nature of the market and understanding that. So the better we can understand that, the better we can set our expectations of what's happening within the market. And we'll show you, we'll look at the days on market for some of the areas, and we'll look at the big picture. And then we'll drill down a little bit on some of the smaller areas. When I say smaller areas, it's always important to look at the real estate market, from a broad stroke, but you don't own a house in Toronto. You own a house on your street in your neighborhood, and that's what you want to understand. So, of course, all of Toronto, we're the largest real estate board in the world with 60,000+ agents, and well over this year, there'll be well over 100,000 transactions on it. So we have a huge board, but it's important to get down to the specific numbers where you are located, where you're selling your home, or you're buying your home, or you're working as a realtor on behalf of your clients. And it's important to understand where that goes. So where do we start? Well, I'm going to assume if you're a realtor, you already know how to log into our system. If you don't, you better learn quickly, because that's where all of our information comes from. And as I said, if you got questions or comments along the way, drop them in there. I'll do my best to read them and to acknowledge them, and we'll take, if we need to, we'll take a deep dive into this. But let me share my screen, and we'll see, where we can pull numbers. There's two areas as realtors that we have access to pull the numbers, and I'm going to show you how important it is to understand, what to look for, how to look at it, and also how to interpret what's going on in the market. So let's flip over to here. This is, when you log into the Toronto Real Estate Board, this is what you see. And let's just try a few things here. The first thing that you're going to want to do, of course, if we wanted to search properties, we would click on here. We're going to do that in just a moment. However, right above there, market stats, we're going to pull that, and then we're going to in a moment, we're going to look at another way to pull some numbers that perhaps is going to provide a little bit more clarity to the marketplace. So market stats, let's click that and let's see where we're going to go. We're going to look in this first column, and we want to look at the Trev Markets report, and the June numbers are in. So I'm clicking fast here, but you can catch up later. So what we're looking at here, and I'll make this bigger in just a moment, is the market watch tables for the month of June, of course, of 2021 for all of the Toronto Real Estate Board. So if I zoom in here a little bit, you can see that this first column right over here, we had a total of 11,000 properties close in the month of June. That's a pretty good number, in fact. And it's always important. What would be really important is how many properties closed last June. So it's always good to see where we were last year, and also where we were a month ago. And I'll show you how to do that in just a second. The average price across all properties is right here at $1,089,000. This is for all of the Toronto Real Estate Board. So for all of those 11,000 properties that we see sold there, and then we can get very specific from detached to semi to condo townhouses to condos. The condo average price right now on the Toronto Real Estate Board, as you can see here, is $945,000. And you're just thinking to yourself, okay, that's great, but where did we come from, right? What was May looking at? So we're simply going to, let's look at the previous month. And I chose May 2021. So we know that we had 11,000 properties selling on Toronto Real Estate Board for the month of June. And our average price was $1,089,000. So the moment I click update, it's going to refresh the screen. And we had about 900 more properties sell in the month of June. And our average price was actually about $50,000 more in the month of May. So it's always important to know where we came from, to kind of see those trends. And a good trend, a baseline trend, is always to look back your 3 previous months to kind of see where the market's going and to get a little flavor. Of course, the more data you add to that, the better it's going to be for your information. So I'm curious now. This is interesting. So again, this is on the entire real estate board. And let's look back one more month. So just play with me here for a second. Play with me, because it's important to kind of see the big picture. And then, as I said, we get to scale that down, funnel it down to the area that you're buying, investing in, have your own home in, whatever it is. Month of April, and again, so we had almost 12,000 homes sell on the Toronto Real Estate Board. I see you there, Peter. Thank you for the shout out. Always appreciate bringing good insight and good information to everyone here on the world of Facebook and everywhere else. So as I said, we're going to look back on the month of April. So currently we are in the month of May. I haven't hit update yet. So 11,900 homes sold. Average price is 1.1. And let's look at that update for April. April. So interesting, right? We went from 11,900. And in the month of April, there was actually 13,600, if you can see that. And the average price was approximately the same, $1,090,000, but we had more homes sell, and we could get really deep on the active listings, everything. However, I think that's more important, days on market and active listings, as we get down deeper into the area that you're specifically owning, buying in, selling in. That's where it matters the most. But it's always interesting to kind of see it from the big, broad approach on what our market has done. So our market, if you remember, and if you're watching later, you can scroll the video back. We went from about 11,000 properties, or we've gone from 13,600 properties in the month of April. Month of May was about 11,900, I believe the number was. And then today, or for the month of June, we were at about 11,000. So that number's gone down a little bit. However, we'd want to know, obviously, exactly, Peter, that's exactly where I'm going right now. You got it. what's the inventory? So was there more inventory in the month of April compared to today? And what's happening with that inventory? So that's always, it's important, right? Supply and demand. And so we can see here 20,000 new listings were became active in the month of April. And we're going to skip forward. So we have 20,840 to be exact. And let's skip forward to the month of June, what we just got our numbers in from. So 20,840 and new listings is 16,000. So there you go. So what's that telling us? So perhaps our inventory is coming down, yet we are still seeing a tremendous opportunity for sellers, right? And even though the average price has gone down slightly, the amount of properties that is available, so what's the amount of properties that are on the shelves that you can go and buy, that number has gone down, which is really, really interesting. You know, the seasonality of it. Let's just take COVID out of it, because I think we're kind of getting back to a seasonality of the market. And we always know that that month of April and into May is usually our two busiest months of the year. So it's nice to see that kind of come back a little bit. And what that also tells us is that allows us to kind of not forecast with a little bit more insight, but forecast with a little bit more insight. And if we can kind of get back to your typical seasonality, so usually we see a little dip in the June, July, and August months, maybe a little flurry towards the end of August, and then September, it kind of comes back a little bit. So people, we're going to be able to see that seasonality and so forth come back to the market. I truly do believe that, and especially if you're really watching the numbers over the first week of June, the first week of July, what do we know? Well, schools ended and people were figuring out what to do with their summer in this new way to handle, our lives, if you will. And I think we're going to see a little bit of a dip right now as well. And then maybe perhaps more of a flurry come back mid-July and into August. But really interesting numbers. So that's the broad picture. And I would never say, look at these numbers and that's what your home value is at, because we're at too big of a ceiling to look at it. We got to dig down lower. So let's just quickly look at some of the local areas and we'll eliminate some of the other stuff. So on the entire Toronto Real Estate Board, we're at $1,089,000. Let's quickly look at Peel. And we can dig deeper into Peel, but let's just quickly look at Peel. So of the 11,000 properties, 2,200, almost 2,300 properties of those homes were sold within Peel. I'm looking at that number right here. You can see that. And then our average price was only down slightly at $1,041,000 there. And the new listings were $3,225. Let's keep digging. And let's just look at Toronto proper and see what number that spits out at us. So 3,850 of the 11,000 properties were from Toronto with an average price of $1,079,000. And that's a big area again. That area of Toronto is a massive, massive area. So interesting to look at. Now let's look at York Region. That's the next biggest area as well. And right there, we're seeing just over 2,000 homes of that 11,000 sell. So just in those three areas, we were at about 7,000 or so, roughly around that number. And the average price here is much higher. It's at 1.24. And I'm going to show you something really interesting here in a second as we kind of dig a little bit deeper of what that looks like. So new listings, you can see we had 2,917 new listings in York Region, and there were currently 2,364 active listings. Now here's the interesting number, and I've been keeping this off screen purposely because we were too high looking at the months of inventory, but we're getting down as we look into the regions or the areas at 1.2 months worth of inventory, which I find interesting. And the average sale price to listing price here is 104%. And the average days on market, which what I was really keeping off screen purposely, is 14 days. And what we got to remember is now we're starting to see the market I don't want to use the word balance, but allow buyers to put in conditions. How about that? That's probably better said, because a balanced market is typically about 3 months worth of inventory. That's what history tells us. And we are far away from that at this moment. So months of inventory means if no homes no homes came to market today, how long would it take for the current inventory to sell out? And this tells us 1.2 months, so about 5 weeks or so. The other thing, as I was alluding to earlier, is 14 days on market. Well, we know that if you can go buy with conditions, that typically includes 5 or 7 days worth of conditions. And a home is not considered sold, right, until that condition period, you've as the buyer has satisfied or fulfilled your conditions. So that's really, those homes are probably receiving offers within the first 7 days of being on the market, and then conditional period for 5 to 7 days thereafter. That's how I'd look at that. And of course, there's always certain segments of the market that are going to sell faster than the others, and we can look at that a little bit deeper as well. But here's something that I'm going to dig. Let's go a step further, right? Because this is the most important piece, digging down into a step and getting real close to the area that you trade in. And I pulled up some numbers for Stouffville. That's where I live, so I always like pulling numbers for Stouffville. And again, this is for the month of June. We had 82 sales in the month of June in Stouffville. Now, Stouffville is not a huge area, populace-wise. However, it does have an incredible price range. So we go from about 900,000, and I'm going to show you in a second here, to multiples of millions of dollars, because we have that. We have some big estates that very large luxury homes. Yeah, these are frightening stats. They can be, depending on how you're looking at them, Peter. Average price is 1.344. In its entirety, across all property types. And if we scroll over to the end here, on average for 17 days on market, this top column, I wish I could get it all on one screen. I'm sorry for scrolling fast, is detached homes. And detached homes, we have an average price, and I want you to remember this number because I'm going to show you something in a second. Average price is 1.5 for a detached home in Stouffville. Or is it? I'm going to show you something in just a moment, because it's important to understand what average means, right? And then for our average, we got 1.4 months worth of inventory, 18 days on market. So that typically means the homes are up for sale for about, we'll call it 10 days, 11 days before receiving an offer. And if you're a buyer or seller, that should be your expectation. If you're an agent, this is how you should be educating your buyers and sellers, right? Understanding the average days on market. And understanding what your competition is. So there's 85 active listings. What does that mean in the month of June? And this is interesting numbers. So this is what I found really interesting. So there's two things here. Semi-detached, Stouffville does not have many of them. That's typically our number, 6 homes. 14 townhouses sold, not a big number as well, but that's what drives the price. And if you look here, the average price for a townhouse in Stouffville is $908,000, and a semi is only $939,000. So only about a $30,000 difference for the two. But there's not many detached homes to look at, as we know. Now let me circle back to our average price here. We mentioned earlier that $1.5 million for the average price on a detached home in Stouffville, or is it? So let me show you something. And this is something that not a lot of realtors and buyers and sellers really dig deep on. And it's important to understand it, because what does average mean? Average means they take basically all 59 of the properties that sold, right? All 59 of them, and find out what that average is. But what happens if there was like a $600,000 piece of junk that sold, or a $10 million home that sold? Will that skew the numbers? absolutely it'll skew the numbers. And it's important to eliminate those sometimes, right? Or not sometimes, all the time, to get a better understanding of where, if you're trying to find the value of your own home, to kind of figure that out. Because I'd love to say all day that the homes on all the detached homes in Stouffville were worth 1.5, but they're not. So let me show you something a little bit different. And we're going to look, so this is, we're logged into the Toronto Real Estate Board right now, and this is what all the agents get to look at. And there's another option in here to pull stats. And these stats, they may not perfectly align with the market report stats that we just saw, but they are terribly close. And it's where I get some of my information from. So if you're a realtor, you're looking, that's the sold stats or sold statistics, if I could stutter it out, take a look at that. And I'm going to look at the historical data for the month of June for this year. And I'm going to choose York Region. And I'm going to slide over here and choose Stouffville, because we were just talking about that. And it gives us a high level view. So it tells us how many homes sold in that area. And we're looking here. And if I look at the detached, so I said earlier, there's the 59 that sold, and there's the average of $1.5 million. And I know that's terribly small. Let's make this bigger if I can. Let's see. How's that? Good. There we go. 1.5. But if I look at the median price here, what does that tell you? It's 1.32. That is the information that you should be sharing with your clients, or as a buyer or seller. That's what you should be looking at. Because if we look farther to the right, we know that the lowest detached home that was sold was $802,000, and the highest that was sold for the month of June is right here at 4.4. So when you start taking those anomalies out, that really changes what these numbers look like from a median price. And the second number, if you're getting confused with the second number underneath, that's the year. So that was the lowest price on the year, and this is the highest price on the year. So we looked earlier, if you're just looking at the market table report that comes out, and you're all excited because now you think your average price is 1.5. Well, like I said, in Stouffville, King City, areas in Markham, and other areas, you might have some anomalies with some very high price homes selling. And you really need to dig deeper into that. And what I would do there, if I'm doing and maybe we'll do this one day, a live CMA, and I'll show people how I do a live CMA and pull a CMA right here. You give me an address and we'll do it. We'll do it together. If I'm doing a CMA for a buyer or a seller, obviously, I'm pulling these numbers in. But of course, I'm going right down to find, 5 homes. I like doing something called the double 5 homes that are currently on the market. So the competition that are exactly or as close to it like yours. And then 5 homes that have recently sold as closest to today as possible that are just like yours. And that's going to give us a fair comparison of what the value is. And I'm doing that whether I'm buying or selling, because I want to understand the market. So I thought that's really, really interesting. Yeah, Peter, drilling down is imperative to manage expectations. Absolutely. Because depending on how you get your information and where you get your information, you can be led astray pretty quickly. I love telling this story about a neighbor of mine, and here's the story. I see Elena. Yeah, live CMA is a great idea Forget being a rookie or new to the industry. I think it's good practice for everyone to do all the time. So we'll set that up. We'll do a live one. Maybe Jen Silbernagel, one of our coaches, does that with me. That would be kind of fun. Yeah, where was I going? Oh, where you get your information is so important. I remember a neighbor of mine. He still lives on our street, and this was a number of years. This was probably 2017, 2018, the last time we had a big surge in the real estate market. And I remember him coming around the corner to me and said, "Can you believe that house and he kind of pointed to it, just sold for $1.3 million. And that was extremely high for our street at that time. And I said, how'd you get that information? Because of course I'm a licensed realtor. I know the numbers, right? And when a home sells on my street, I know the numbers. And of course he said, well, so-and-so told him. And I said, I don't want to correct you, but I feel that I need to correct you. And that home didn't sell for 1.3. It sold for $1,030,000. So right in an instant, he had, roughly $300,000 of equity taken away like that because he had the wrong information. But to him, he believed it was true. So making sure that you had the right information from the correct sources is so important, whether you're a realtor or not. And if you get information and you believe it's true, who's to say that, why wouldn't you think that your value is so much higher than what it really is? But understanding how to deliver that information, understanding where to get that information, and educating buyers and sellers. And if you are a buyer and seller, making sure you're connected with a great realtor, getting you that type of information is always, 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 always important. Very good. Very, very good. What else can I show you quickly here? Let me back up a little bit. Let me scroll this screen down a little bit. Is there a way, and I'm often asked this question, is there a way to get live up to the moment, up to the minute stats of our current market? And the answer is yes and no, all at the same time. And there is a way, and we can use the same feature that I was doing here before. So on this screen here, once you're logged into the Toronto Real Estate Board, if I just back up a little bit, and again, I hit on the left-hand side here, sold statistics. That's so hard for me to say. You can do most recent sold stats, and typically it's going to be about a day behind. And if I just did the same thing, pulling up York region, and you do have to choose an area before you hit. No, you don't. You don't have to choose an area. You could do a broad approach area, but let's just drill down to Stouffville because that's what we were doing. And this will kind of give us a live view of Stouffville for the month of July. Now, these numbers won't be 100% accurate, but they'll be pretty close. And you can see here, let me zoom this out a bit. We've had 95 homes that are active. We have 20 sales thus far in the month of June. So that's basically from the month of July 1st to the 8th or 7th, which is pretty good because we've had a couple of weekends already, and or a weekend and a holiday in there. So that's not bad. And our average price for detached, let's just follow that number here. So our median price has gone up a little bit at 1.4, but again, let's look at to see what sold. So our highest price there was 2.7. The neat thing here is because it's such a small number, we could just pull those numbers manually to get that information and really look at that. I'm going to show you one other way to pull some active numbers too, and I haven't done this in a while. Let me see what I can do here for us. So I'm doing search, and let's do it like this. Unavailable. See, these are the homes that have sold. That's what unavailable means. And I'm going to choose, let's just stick with York Region and Stouffville. And I'm going to choose our sold date from the month of July. We have 12 there. So again, that's a little bit different than the number we were just seeing. Let's hit submit. And these are all the homes that have sold. Of course, I wasn't pulling detached. Let me go back up and change that to detached. And where do I do that? I always forget because this is not the way I typically do it. Detached. Here we go. So now we're looking at 8 homes that have sold. These are all detached. And if you want to pull some other stats, there's a little button up here that looks like a calculator, and you can do that. And that's going to give you, I see that, Peter. Let me jump back at that. Okay, Vaughn, for sure. So there's another way to do kind of an interactive live view of the month of July. So 1.2. So these numbers are a little bit different, but I only pulled detached, and that's a good way to do it. So you can print that, and sometimes I've done that. I printed this, saved it, sent that to clients as well. And yeah, so let's look at Vaughan, Peter, for sure. We'll do it two ways. Let's see how different it is. So let's just see here. Let's change this to Vaughan. And Vaughan's a big area, much bigger than Stouffville. Look at that. Okay, so looking at this, Peter, we got total of 507 units sell. Detached is 250. I always like looking at detached, especially in these areas, because that's typically driving the market. Average price is 1.7 for the month of June, and 1.3 months worth of inventory, or a half a month or 15 days is your average days on market. That's pretty good there. I'm curious to see where that came from, though. So we're looking at month of June. We're going to skip May and go right to April. So sorry, hang on. We're at 1.7 and 250 sales. And let's go to April for Vaughan. So 1.7, so it's very stable, that market, and slightly more sales. But again, we didn't really necessarily dive deep into the number of listings and active listings, but that's a good holding market. And only slightly different in days on market. And again, when you're less than 20, when you're 10 to 20, it's not much of a difference. That's interesting. That's good. I always like looking at this. So, looking at the median price. So we are York Region. Let's look at Vaughan. And we're going to look at June. And if you look here, this is so easy to change the year. So if you're looking at this as a realtor, it's easy to change a year and flip back to see how the prices have increased year over year. So again, York, Vaughan, June. Good. Double click into that. Detach, where are we here? So 251 units. Yeah, but our average medium price, yeah, lots of great action there for sure. Medium price is 1.5. And if you look here, why that medium price is such a different number, I'm already looking at the second line there. Sorry, I should zoom this out. Here we go. So your median price was 1.5. The average price was 1.7. You had a $6.2 million home sell in Vaughan. We had a $17 million home sell this year in Vaughan. So that's really going to skew the numbers if you're looking at it from a big picture perspective. But Vaughan, as we all know, has a very, very affluent area. And it has some big homes, luxury homes there as well. And for a lot of, I know for Keller Williams, the company I work for, scary pricing, no doubt, Peter. Anything in Toronto, York region, anything valued over $2 million, which sounds like a huge number, but we're seeing numbers here that are getting pretty close. Keller Williams actually classifies that as a luxury property. So we could actually use our luxury branding and all of that if you're a Keller Williams agent listing a property over $2 million in any of the areas of Vaughan, well, any of the areas of Toronto and York region. I don't know what Peel is. I'd have to look that up specifically. I don't know what that is off the top of my head. And I know that Durham is slightly less at about 1.6 or 1.7. Yeah, no problem, Peter. Anytime. But that's how I look at these. And as I said, if we're doing that live CMA, I'm digging deeper into the stats always. If there's anything else in here that you want to look at, I'm happy to. But this is always interesting. So I'm curious. So let's look at it like this. I'm going to flip back here, and our average price, we're looking in Vaughan. Let's just remind ourselves for June. Our average price for a detached home in Vaughan was 1.7. I'm going to write that down because I know I'm going to forget. 1.7, June 21. And again, this is all unscripted. So I want to look back 1 year. I want to see how this has changed over 1 year. We had 250 units sell. That's always an important number. Sell. And 389 new units. So let me hit update here. That's not changing for me. Why is that not changing for me? There we go. Now we're going to hit update. Okay. So we're at 1.37. So an increase of 250-ish, $225,000 increase. So that would be, off the top of my head, about a 17% increase. Wow. That's amazing. 171 units only sold last year. This year was 251 for detached and 400 new listings. So that was about the same. We had 389 this year. But again, these are all numbers that, there's always a story to the numbers. So have a look at that and educate yourselves on it. Very, very good. If there's anything else, I'm happy to jump. There we go. If there's anything else, I'm happy to show you how I look at this. But that's always interesting. So what is the story? How do we tell the story? So really, here's the thing. As realtors, if you're watching as a realtor or an investor, we can't tell the story if we don't know the story. So we got to take the time to understand where these numbers are coming from so we can tell that story. And there's articles in the newspaper. What is that? There's articles online every day that share the story, and you'll get to learn how to read those articles from an economic standpoint. And there are some great writers out there, great people that provide information. Benjamin Tall, for one, chief economist at CIBC. He's great to follow, great to listen to if you want to learn about that perspective of it. RBC does a great report. They do a real estate report. There are many others that provide information, and they're not selling you anything. They're not trying to get you to sign up to a course or do this or do that. They're just providing information, and there's some great resources out there. And I remember years ago, when I first started investing in real estate, I thought to myself, man, I don't care about economics, or I don't care about what's going on in the oil industry or our GDP or anything like that. But when you start to understand how it affects your local real estate market, you will look at those articles and information and reports a little bit differently. So take the time to kind of understand it a little bit and become the area expert. If you're selling Century homes in Newmarket, learn that and learn everything you know about that. If you're selling condos in Richmond Hill, learn everything there is to know about condos in Richmond Hill, and kind of close out the noise from anywhere else. Your efficiency as an agent can be gained from the reports alone by creating the story behind them. Absolutely, Peter. I remember when I was doing investment workshops every month. And so I would host them, and I would do an economic kind of overview of where's the market and what's going on. And what that forced me to do was research, right? And it would take me maybe a few afternoons to kind of put the information together, because once you understand where to get the information, it's really easy. And the best thing about it, as I was talking with my clients on buying and selling, I retained that information, and when it was so advantageous, not only to the people that I was coaching and teaching, but also to my clients. So take the time and go through that kind of stuff, and you'd be surprised on the information you retain for sure. Okay, that about wraps it up. And appreciate everyone jumping on. And if you're watching the replay, feel free to send me questions or ask questions within the comments. I'm happy to do so. I'm happy to do live CMA so we can set that up. And I think I like doing this, the kind of the live market update, and that's certainly something that I'm going to start adding on a more regular basis, because understanding the market, we can go anywhere with it too. Understanding the market and what's going on, because when the market is fast and moving as it has been over the last number of months. Thanks, Peter. As always, thank you. when the market is moving as fast as it does, it changes sometimes daily and of course weekly, and that can change the value or how you're buying and selling the property from a day-to-day or week-to-week basis. So this is important stuff to understand. Very good, my friends. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see everybody on the next live stream. Feel free to reach out to me through Facebook Messenger or my email address, McGowan, MCGOWAN @kw.com. Happy to connect with you. Bye for now, everybody.